political bias, and creators can't put a thumb on that scale. Meta says the latest version of its AI model, Llama, was designed to, quote, remove bias and articulate both sides of a contentious issue. In practice, that appears to mean a shift to the right, and some activists and scholars are calling foul. Ina Fried is here with more. She's chief technology correspondent for Axios. Hi, Ina.
Hey, Robin.
So Llama 4, released earlier this month, answers questions some other AI models refuse to answer. It has a lower refusal rate. Now, Meta is bragging about that, but why are critics concerned about that?
Well, there's a bunch of changes that they've outlined, and I think it's the totality of it that has people concerned. There's debates, reasonable debates on how often should an AI model say, I can't answer that, versus presenting different viewpoints, and I think that's a reasonable conversation to have. I think what troubled people is it was combined with a note that said, it's well known that large language models are left-leaning, and that actually isn't necessarily the case. It's something that I'm sure the Trump administration wants to hear and conservatives will appreciate hearing. Large language models have a bunch of biases, some of which lean left, but many of which point in other directions.
Yeah, well, when you talk about just that notion of why not answer a question, critics are saying, and they include, GLAAD, the LGBTQ rights organization, which told Axios that, okay, if you have these AI machines who will answer anything, it might be just to bring more both-sidism, that might equate anti-LGBTQ junk science with well-established facts, just so that it has less of a refusal rate. I mean, isn't that one of the criticisms?
I think that's where a lot of the rub comes in. I think in today's society, we have a lot of topics that are politicized, meaning there's political opinions on both sides, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the science points equally one way. I think about a wide range of things, from climate change to, trans and LGBTQ issues to immigration. There's a bunch of these issues where there are different opinions, but let's say that the scholarly work, the research, the science tends to point in one direction. Does that mean you give both answers? Does that mean you refuse to answer? Does that mean you only give the one where the science points? These are really tough questions. And whereas in the past, it was the creators you followed on social media that maybe dictated what you heard, with an AI model, it's going to have to answer these or not, or refuse. And there's going to be a big battle, as we've been saying for more than a year, not just in the U.S., but globally, over how these systems answer these very contested issues in our society that we as society don't seem to agree on.
Right. Well, and as we said, Meta, Mark Zuckerberg's Meta, says that this is going to be, making sure we understand and articulate both sides of a contentious issue. But according to research, and this is from Axios reporting, from the University of Washington, Carnegie Mellon, and universities in China in 2023, Llama already gave the most right-wing authoritarian answers to prompts. ChatGPT gave the most left-leaning answers. So it feels as if what we're looking at is AI, reflecting society.
I think it largely does, but I think it's important to point out, too, that already there are voices that are heard more, and those tend to speak in U.S. English because that's where a lot of the written web is. So there's so many biases in there, and I didn't have time in the piece to get into it all, but there's a lot of bias in AI systems. Removing bias sounds good, but is not a practical goal. I think the real issue is recognizing and counteracting it.
Yeah. Well, and just to ask you about maybe the politics behind this, because a lot of people are saying, and I think someone told you, that this was a blatant ideological play to effectively make overtures to the Trump administration.
Well, I think this is certainly a repeat of what we saw in social media, where there was a lot of talk about anti-conservative bias, and it again pointed to the same thing. Look, if you're advocating that climate change isn't real, that is a political position, but it's not going to be backed up with facts. And so I think that's where we're coming down on a lot of this. And I do think tech companies have shown they really want to get in good with this administration. They want better decisions when it comes to regulation. They want to avoid antitrust scrutiny. So we're seeing a lot of tech companies cozying up to the administration.
Well, meanwhile, what's a consumer to do? We only have about a minute here, but if you're using AI and you know that people are fine tuning it, which I think is, to maybe reflect their own bias. What do we do with that?
Well, I think as adults, we need to be aware of it. And I think with children, there's a lot of feeling that we need some legislation here that sort of ensures what kids can expect online.
Right. It's fascinating. We'll have to, stay up with you on that. Ina Fried, Chief Technology Correspondent for Axios, who joins us regularly to talk all things AI. Ina, you have to see the Broadway play Maybe Happy Ending, which we had a story about today, which is about help bots. You have to see it. Thank you.
Amazing.
Okay. Here and Now is a production of NPR and WBUR. I'm Robin Young in Boston.
And I'm Peter O'Dowd in Phoenix. It's Here and Now.
Funding for Here and Now comes from the listeners of WBUR Boston and from BetterHelp, committed to helping clients with issues ranging from relationship challenges and goal setting to grief and depression. Learn more at betterhelp.com/public.
Radio IQ listeners are enthusiastic fans of art and culture in our communities. You'll find them at galleries, performance venues, museums, and festivals throughout the region. Help your business or organization reach our listeners by becoming a Radio IQ corporate sponsor. It's easy to do. Email us at wvtfcorporatesupport@vt.com.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our 2 o'clock p.m. session of the Roanoke City Council here on April 21st. And I want to thank our Department of Technology for our Monday mindfulness moment that we just had. Great way to get us all to take a deep breath and before we get started. We're honored to welcome the Reverend Donald Shovely, Sr., pastor of Jerusalem Baptist Church, to give our invocation. Following that, I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to invite us to stand, and then I want to ask for a moment of silence. Before we invite Reverend Shovely to offer our invocation, I'd like for us to pause for a moment of silence to honor the memory of Pope Francis. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and City Council members and fellow citizens of Roanoke, Virginia. Let us bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this gathering today in this important endeavor. We ask that you bestow your guidance and blessings upon each attendee. Father God, may we honor one another by keeping an open mind. May we voice our truth and listen with an open heart. Bless everyone that is present today, that each may be able to share his or her contribution and gifts. We ask for your wisdom and grace to use our talents for the betterment of others. May the various activities related to this hour be a success through your intervention. Father, with gratitude, this prayer I pray in the marvelous, miraculous, and majestic name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Reverend Shovely. City Council meetings will be televised live and replayed on RVTV Channel 3 on Thursdays at 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and video streamed through Facebook Live at facebook.com Roanoke VA. City Council meetings are offered with closed captioning for the deaf or hard of hearing. The Council of the City of Roanoke is seeking applications for various vacancies on council-appointed authorities, boards, commissions, and committees. If you're interested in applying, please visit roanokeva.gov to complete an online application. To begin our meeting this afternoon, as we typically do at our 2 o'clock sessions, I'm going to invite our council colleagues to give any shout-outs from the past couple weeks, some good things that they've seen happening in the city. And so I'm going to start on this end today.
Mayor Cobb, before you start.
Oh, I need to call the roll first.
Yes.
See that mindfulness moment, really. All right, let's call the roll first.
All right. Ms.
Thank you.
Sanchez-Jones. Vice Mayor McGuire.
Here.
Mr. Nash.
Here.
Mr. Volleson.
Here.
Ms. Powers.
Here.
Mr. Hagan.
Here.
And Mayor Cobb.
Here, and a quorum is present.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, now we'll go with our shout-outs. Councilman Hagan.
I'm going to give a shout out to staff. Y'all held community meetings about the budget, and that's something which I haven't seen in many years, so y'all did an amazing job, and yeah, so thank you all.
I agree with Mr. Hagan. Thank you for all the work you guys did.
I wanted to give a shout out. I got my State of the Waters report in the mail a couple weeks ago, and I meant to mention this previously, but if you did not get that, you can access it online. And so I want to give a shout out to all of the staff that helped pull that together and all of the really impressive work that's gone on in Roanoke over the last 10 years to clean up our waterways. And we have a lot of work remaining to do. Most of our streams in the city are still impaired, polluted, but we are making a lot of progress. And I just want to give a shout out to everyone that worked on that report.
Thank you. Councilman.
I would just copy what Councilman Hagan and Councilwoman Sanchez Jones said, I think the coolest part about the community the public meetings we had was the digital element. So like having the cameras there so people at home can still see what's going on even if they couldn't attend in person, which is really good for that access. So much thanks to the staff and the guys behind this wall that made that happen.
My shout out is going to be for the Earth Day Festival that was at Grandin this past weekend. I know we had several of our departments there, which I was glad to see, Blue Ridge Land Conservancy and others. So thank you for making that annual tradition as wonderful as it always is.
And my shout out too is again to our city leaders and our budget team for all the work that they've done. I agree too. I had neighbors that told me they watched the budget hearing on TV and much enjoy that. So, and I also want to do a shout out to our Parks and Rec Center because my grandchildren go to the parks and they told me on Saturday when they came in to visit us for Easter, Nana, you have such beautiful parks. So they do a great job and downtown's looking beautiful too. So thank you all for what you do.
Thank you all. A couple of shout outs for me. One is Thursday was the, I think, third annual Roanoke City Public Schools Job Fair. And it was fantastic. They continue to see an increase in the number of employers that come. And this year they added a component since RCPS Plus, that model has changed. They brought together a lot of community partners and agencies that were there to help connect students and families with summer programming. So I want to commend them. Councilman Hagan and I were also able to attend a really fun picnic on Saturday for the Filipino-American community here in the city of Roanoke. And it was a way for us to reconnect with them and celebrate the cultural gifts and heritage they bring to our community. So thank you all very much. We'll move now into hearing of citizens upon public matters. And we set aside this time as a priority for citizens to be heard. All matters will be referred to the city manager for response, recommendation, or report to the council as she may deem appropriate. Madam Clerk, do we have some speakers signed up today?
Yes, we do.
Okay. If you'd like to call them two by two, and you'll have 5 minutes each, I think, for
Yes.
today. Right.
We have David Garland and Michelle Brooks.
Welcome, Mr. Garland.
See ya. All right. And I'm not sure I can attend the hearing this evening. I'm going to say a few things about the budget and taxes. I asked the City Council to direct the city budget planners to take off the rose-tinted glasses and try again, even if that means missing the May 12th target. At Thursday night's budget presentation, in response to a question about federal and state funding cuts, a presenter said, quote, "Our budget does not take into consideration any grant dollar loss." And that alone raised alarm bells in my mind, and it merits a failing grade on the draft, but it's only the beginning. As you know, the planner started with the budget from last year when markets were climbing and federal money was flowing freely, and then they add to it. The few cuts that total less than 1% of the previous budget are added back elsewhere, along with another $25 million in increases, just like the year before, which is another $25 million. And then they demand a higher meals tax to cover $6 million of it. Now, apparently the budget planners believe that real estate values and federal and state spending for localities and consumer spending in the city, including dining out, will remain at or exceed prior levels for the next budget year, and I think that's nonsense. They're not taking into account the reality in which we live, which includes the national debt, interest payments on it reaching crisis levels, an executive branch response that is cutting programs, grants, and staffing, and an economy that is faltering under the weight of decades of federal debt mismanagement, Ponzi scheme monetary policy, as well as the schizophrenic trade policies with the current president. Now, all of that paints a picture in which markets will continue to decline, consumers will spend less, businesses will falter, tax revenues will fall at the federal, state, and local levels, and real estate values will fall. In addition, federal and state funding to localities is being cut. Some of that's already even happened. While the city does have some reserve funds, as I understand it, they now represent maybe 6% of a one-year budget, and that's nothing in a major downturn. While the city has good credit, its borrowing limit is constrained by the total value of taxable real estate, which would be falling at the very time debt financing might appear attractive. Now, a second related problem with the draft budget is that it makes no effort to prioritize anything. Everything's a priority. When I watched the presentation, the entire budget was sorted into 7 broad priorities. Nothing was not priority. It included, of course, the things you expect to see, like police and firefighting, roads, K-12 education, but then also things like public art as part of livability. The budget presentation Thursday was titled Challenges and Choices, but it seemed like they were recognizing no challenges and making no hard choices. Perhaps they would reach a less dreary conclusion than I about what's happening in the economy. But at this point, it doesn't seem like they've considered what's happening now at all. The draft budget contemplates more revenue and more federal and state aid. Now, I urge you and the city manager to forget about the meals tax increase entirely, send back the draft budget for a reality check, and order every department head to prepare and submit budget cuts of 10% less than the previous year, and a contingency budget of 25% less than the previous year, with explanations as to why selected cuts would still preserve the most important department functions that serve the broadest population within the city. Contingency planning should also consider whether some non-essential programs could be eliminated. Apart from budget considerations, Roanoke City is competing with surrounding jurisdictions when it comes to attracting and retaining productive, self-responsible, law-abiding citizens who are the backbone and life of the city. And the city should craft its programs and budget accordingly, especially in times like these. I think the warning signs are around us on street corners and on Wall Street, and we need to take them seriously while we still have some time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garland. And who is
Michelle,
our next speaker?
Yes, Michelle Brooks.
Welcome.
Hi, how are y'all? Thank you for listening to my concerns today. I am speaking not only as a parent of a 4th grader in the city, but also as a teacher at an elementary school within the district. I am a product of Roanoke City Schools. I attended Highland Park Elementary. I was part of the Challenge program at Addison in the early 90s. And I went to PH until my mom moved us to a different locality. The city schools had a huge impact on my life, and I'm still in contact with a few of my former teachers today. I tell you this to help emphasize the importance the school system has within our community. Being in education as a teacher for 21 years, I have seen year after year how schools always have to do more and more with less and less resources. This leads to a large turnover rate, overcrowded classrooms, and less resources for individual students. Education and public schools are currently under attack. The federal government is wanting to dismantle the Department of Education. I personally have gone to lobby day at the state for the past 4 years to try to get the support cap lifted for the school system. Finally, this year, it was in the state budget to give the schools more resources. And then Governor Youngkin sent it back and said that he wanted $122 more million cut from education. Now, our local city council doesn't want to increase school funding for the fiscal year. I know many of the city members of council are pro-public education, or I wouldn't have voted for you, so I know that. Being in any type of role in public school is becoming harder and harder each passing year, and it never seems to be enough for what everyone does in public education. By not following through on your commitment to an increase under the city's school funding policy, in my opinion, is saying that public education in Roanoke is not important. Respectfully, I request that City Council fulfills their commitment and increases monies allotted for public schools. If the federal and state government want to cut monies from public schools, at the very least, the students, teachers, and staff employed by Roanoke City Schools need City Council to show that education is a priority for the city. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And the last speaker is Olivia Ryan.
Welcome.
Hello. Okay. Good afternoon, City Council members. I'm here to advocate for full funding of Roanoke City Public Schools for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. I first became aware of Roanoke School's funding problems several weeks ago when the elementary Spanish program was up for debate. When my son comes home from his weekly Spanish class, he's joyfully singing a song that he's learned to help him remember new vocabulary. And it's not perfect, but we can figure it out together, and it's one of the highlights of my day. It's heartbreaking to me that he could lose that part of his education, especially when nearly 10% of Roanoke City's population is Spanish-speaking, or really any part of his education. Not long after that, I learned how dire the situation was after hearing from other parents, teachers, as well as members of the school board. The most upsetting was learning that there is an established school funding policy that the City Council seemingly intends to ignore. I understand that the city has to make difficult decisions in light of the current financial situation, but this is not the solution. How can we expect to retain and attract teachers to educate and inspire our children if other school systems have more impressive offerings? My children are home from school today. It's a holiday, and so this is pretty common in our household. My son will just have a surge of energy and rapid-fire questions at me. He loves science, so a lot of times they sound something like, how do volcanoes form? How does a storm make thunder and lightning? What was the Big Bang? He has a bright and curious mind, and so far he's had wonderful teachers, staff members encouraging him and helping him along the way, including speech therapy and reading aids. I do my best to ensure that he has books that interest him and answer him questions and hopefully lead him to ask more questions, but I don't have a background in education. I depend on the city's public school system. Please don't let me or my children down, our children of the city. Fully fund Roanoke City's school systems for the 2025 and 2026 fiscal year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to all of our speakers who came today. We appreciate it. Next item in our agenda is our consent agenda, and all matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by members of council and are enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of the items, but if discussion is desired, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Before I entertain a motion and second, I do want to note that within the consent agenda are three different closed meetings. One, to consult with legal counsel regarding a certain legal matter requiring the provision of legal advice by outside legal counsel. A communication from the city attorney requesting that city council convene in a closed meeting on a personnel matter. And the third item is communication from the city attorney requesting that city council convene in a closed meeting for discussion of possible disposal of publicly owned property. So with those noted, I'll entertain a motion and second for the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Aye. Vice Mayor McGuire.
Aye.
Mr. Nash.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Powers.
Aye.
Mr. Hagan.
Aye.
And Mayor Cobb.
Aye, and the motion is adopted. We have no public hearings today in our regular agenda, so we'll move on to petitions and communications. And this afternoon, we have two presentations. The first is regarding the activities and initiatives of Care Forward. So I'm pleased to introduce Natalie Handy, Executive Director of Care Forward. This is sponsored by myself and Councilmember Hagan. And come on up, Ms. Handy. We're happy to have you here today.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. Try to get my life right up here. All right. Thank you, Mayor Cobb and members of City Council for allowing me to share about Care Forward, an innovative resource to support our most vulnerable residents, extend community capacity, and strengthen our community. So, Care Forward is a Roanoke-based public benefit corporation with a mission to connect individuals and families with urgent needs to community volunteers and partner organizations who offer time, talent, or resources. This includes the elderly, the disabled, homeless, individuals with chronic or complex health conditions, those diagnosed with serious mental illness or substance use disorders, and more. The primary qualification, though, the individual or the caregiver will have a negative health outcome if the need is not met within 7 to 10 days. This is meant to be a preventative type service, okay? And here's how it works. Case managers enter needs on behalf of individuals and families into the Care Forward platform. Then the requests are sent out to our volunteers and our partner organizations who respond by offering time, talent, or resources. These needs have varied greatly over the last 5 months. We've seen literally a little bit of everything, and mostly I didn't expect it. So last January, I'd like to give you 3 examples. Last January, we had a request for a young adult with intellectual disabilities in need of firewood ahead of the impending storm. And we met that need within 5 hours. 5 hours. And so, second, a woman who was recently homeless needed assistance with a simple tire repair, and that tire repair helped her to maintain her employment. She's an Instacart driver, and because she has that employment, she can pay for her housing. And so that simple act of kindness was able to keep her on the road and keep her housed. That's impactful. And our most recent request, which is actually not included in our numbers, it was just fulfilled, it's being fulfilled this week, was for an elderly person who had been without water, or hot water, for weeks. And I'm happy to report, thanks to the generosity of our community volunteers and partner businesses, a new water heater will be installed in her home on Wednesday. That is impactful. And these are all simple requests if you really think about it. And they could have resulted in significant negative health outcomes. And that's what we're trying to prevent. But our community jumped in and they said, I care and we can help. And that's the beautiful part of it, is people don't know county lines. People are helping from Roanoke County into the city, into the county. It's a beautiful thing because really people want to help one another. And so I am proud to share that we launched our beta program with the City of Roanoke and Roanoke County in collaboration with the Department of Social Services back in October of 2024. We also partner, as you can see, with 4 of the major health plans, not only in the state, but in the United States. And we also have numerous community partners. One of my community partners is following me as soon as we're done. And so they also do great work, and I would like to give them a shout out as well. And so I proudly share the results of this program with you today. From October 2024 to March of 2025, 100% of the requests have been fulfilled, and they were all fulfilled within 10 days. The majority of them were fulfilled within 48 hours. That is fantastic. This is the community mobilizing. And so this breaks down a little bit further. The contribution of time, talent, and resources is right at $16,000. But that is a lot of money, but what really grabs everyone's attention is that we calculate deflections. And you're going to say, Natalie, what are deflections? Deflections are high-cost services that we're trying to keep individuals from having to go into unnecessarily. This could be hospitalizations, readmissions into the hospital, interactions with the Department of Social Services, the CSB. There are 34 deflection categories that we track on every request that is put in by the case manager so that it is kept accurate and true. And so the calculated cost deflections to public services, health systems, and the community at large is a staggering $1.67 million. And with that water heater, it bumps it up to $1.9 million. That's what we have really deflected for these individuals. Out of the 34 potential cost deflection areas that were impacted, we hit 18 of those in our request. Those included prevention of homelessness, avoidance of hospitalizations, and support for individuals to remain in the home. The result, on a direct level, these residents are healthier and they're happier and they're still residing in their homes. Not a single one of these individuals had to go into a higher level of care. On a macro level, we've also helped keep access open to scarce resources to those who truly need it. And we've also reduced inappropriate emergency service utilization. This is absolutely, it's impactful on all residents of the city. These outcomes directly support the city's goals of public safety, human services, and homelessness prevention and education. And here's how, as I get into my next. Okay, public safety. Reduced emergency room visits, fewer police interactions, and stabilization of at-risk populations create cost savings and reduce the strain on the public safety services systems. Human services and homelessness prevention. Care Forward has helped prevent multiple homelessness scenarios. This includes seniors at risk of losing housing due to medical or financial issues, and honestly, some of them were just a simple lack of essential items that help them maintain in the community. By supporting families and individuals in crisis, the platform reduces reliance on shelters and emergency services. Last, education. So keeping families, and we've already heard a couple of people talk about the education side. By keeping families in stable home settings will allow our children to remain enrolled in the Roanoke City Public Schools. This positively impacts their academics and opportunity for long-term success. But it also impacts our ability as a community to pull down average daily membership, or ADM-based state funding. That is very important, critical funding for our schools that comes externally. Care Forward also supports fiscal responsibility. We all should. And so we leverage community action to deliver high impact on low cost. I love that part. A vendor contract would allow Roanoke City to enter urgent requests for residents, track response times and impact metrics, and reduce costs associated with rehospitalizations, emergency shelter, and law enforcement. In conclusion, I'm requesting Roanoke City to enter into a vendor contract with Care Forward to fully expand the program to the departments, equip public safety and DSS to enter needs on behalf of residents, and deliver transparent ROI data to support budget decisions. We respectfully ask for your support to continue and expand this successful partnership. Let's build on what's working, keeping residents safe, stable, and in their homes while protecting Roanoke's limited public service resources. Care Forward started here. It started in Roanoke. And so I am a Roanoke citizen. I actually own property in Roanoke City, so I am not only county, I'm also city too. And the reality is that it's from here and it's for us. We should be taking care of one another, and we can think of no better place than Roanoke City to start Care Forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And welcome, and this is exciting. What a great beginning for you.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask Councilman Hagan if he has any follow-up questions, and I'll open it up to council.
Thank you.
No, thank you so much for all the work you do and for presenting this before us today. So, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Evelyn?
Yeah.
Tell me, how do you get your people to volunteer for this to help, with your services?
Yes, ma'am. We use a multi-pronged approach, and we use a combination of online, digital, organic growth. So we have grown a good bit just through simply sharing of posts. We also do sponsored ads that we have incurred because during our beta program, we want to make sure the concept works and it does exactly what it's supposed to do, and it has. People have shared on social media, which is the beauty of crowdsourcing if you think about it, but we also have a community development manager because partnerships are extremely critical. We partner with nonprofits, higher education, the business community, faith community, and associations, and a lot of those associations like Kiwanis and Rotary, we all cross over into each other. And so it will take the village and the village next door to be able to really support all of our residents. And I think that I'm going to throw back to when I was a little bit younger, and I'm from a rural East Tennessee community, and our neighbors help neighbors. And I think that given the opportunity, and we've demonstrated that, people will help one another if you ask. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question, Mr.
I
Nash?
have a question.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming today. We appreciate it. My question is, how big is your team? So, we roll this out and someone with, that hat team or social work goes and puts in that information. How big is the team and who are the people who I guess are categorizing that information and making those connections and doing that reaching out? And the reason why I'm asking is how big is it now? The beta, round did very well, but that was a limited kind of sampling. And so I'm just trying to anticipate with, wide, system-wide, citywide utilization and all of the hundreds and maybe thousands that could roll through, how are y'all positioned currently to be able to handle that?
Yeah, we are absolutely able to scale. We've actually been partnering with other localities to submit grant requests and also go before boards to be able to scale. We have a community development manager that would be assigned to this, but the platform really is the centerpiece of it. The idea is that we would get, you have the caseworkers, so social services, but it could also be the homeless assistance team has put in requests. They put in the request, and then the platform pushes it out. We're able to push it out via social media and also through word of mouth. And then our community development manager, it goes out. People as volunteers and partner organizations, they see those requests. They can respond back on the platform that raises their hand that says, I can help. And then once they're able to do that, the community development manager coordinates with those volunteers. They can drop off items at our local Department of Social Services or Care Exchange location, or we can go pick them up. I've had individuals reach out to me and say, I didn't have a request that I needed, but they said, I have some furniture. And so we actually had the great problem of needing to get a storage unit because people have said, we would like to donate our gently used items. And there's no red tape for me. I say that very respectfully. If someone needs a couch and the caseworker says they need the couch and that helps impact them from a higher level of care, I'm going to give them the couch. It's very simple. And so we go to them and we deliver the items to their homes. So individuals in need are typically in crisis, if you think about that. And so why would I ask people to come to me when I come to them? And so we have the ability to scale by hiring additional community development managers, but our volunteers, a good number of our time talent is people who will volunteer and they help with delivery. We also have background checks. And so we have the ability to have background checks in our platform that are completed within 11 minutes of submitting. And so caseworkers will put in the request, and if they identify that a background check is required, then that person is required to get it, and that volunteer does not incur that expense. We align with the Department of Social Services barrier crimes on being able to do that.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
But my answer is yes.
Other questions? Can you talk, two questions really. One is, how do you vet resources? Because I know that sometimes we all value things differently.
Yes.
When it comes to donations. So how do you go about, because obviously you're wanting to get good, reliable resources to the people in need.
Absolutely.
How do you vet those?
So we actually look at the items ourselves, and I typically will not turn away the item if I've gone out there and gotten it, but if it's not appropriate, if it's not something that, I don't want to say the majority, but if it's not something that looks clean and not in disrepair, then we're not going to take it, and we will just simply donate it, or it will make its way to the city, the dump, the county city dump. And so I say that respectfully. But I don't really want to turn anyone away. We also have, people will send us photos of those items as well, so that we're not misusing our time.
Yeah, good. You mentioned connections with lots of partners who I presume make referrals.
They do not, actually.
They do not. How do people reach out to request help?
They typically, right now, during the beta, adult services and adult protective services, along with the homeless assistance team and our long-term LTCC populations at DSS are the ones who would put in requests. If the city chose to fund this, then we would identify who are the departments and the individuals who would put in those requests, and the individuals that they serve, the residents that they come upon, would then, they would identify this is a need. This need needs to be met within 7 to 10 days, because this is the important part. We're not looking to take the place of a nonprofit. We're not looking to take the place of a Medicaid or a paid service that's reimbursable. We are looking to impact something that if it's not met within 7 to 10 days, that they will have a negative health outcome. If they can wait longer, then we help connect them to the long-term solution. These are one-time or time-limited volunteer opportunities. And so those departments would identify it. If someone, I've had someone reach out to me recently, and it's actually a person who works with Anthem who's not a part of the care coordination at this point that they're putting in request. I am going to do what I do as a social worker. I'm a social worker by trade. I've worked in the field for 25 years. And so I am simply going to do social work. I troubleshoot and I figure out how do I get them connected to the right appropriate services, because it's the right thing to do.
And lastly, how can people continue to follow your work and learn more about it?
Thank you. If we love volunteers, and the best part is there's no obligation. You can find us at careforward.io. You can sign up to become a volunteer. I encourage you to. And the reality is that there will be a lot more requests, and some requests will speak to you and you will say, I can help. And other requests you're like, I'm just going to pray for that. And hope that they find it, because that's exactly what happened. And so with our water heater, I'm going to say I appreciate Whistler, who is a new partner, stepped up, and they have donated the time, and we have paid $600 for the water heater, something that in total would have cost over $2,000. The community volunteered with financial resource to pay for that. And so this is meant to be a public-private partnership. No one is left behind. And so I am just simply a platform that connects.
Great. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Anything
Thank you
else?
for your questions.
Thank you.
Okay.
Our next presentation this afternoon is on Renovation Alliance, and we're delighted to welcome Executive Director Kendall Clater. Thank you so much for coming today. And this is sponsored by Councilmember Volleson and myself. And it looks like you brought Kathy Stockburger with you, too. Welcome.
Yes. Mayor Cobb, City Council, thank you all so much for having us. I am joined today by Kathy Stockburger, who has been a longtime board member of Renovation Alliance, and also the chair of our fundraising committee. So today I want to share with you a little bit about what Renovation Alliance does, who we are, how we got started. We'll start with a very quick video, and then we'll talk about the impact of the organization and an upcoming event to get the community involved.
What home means to me is a place of love.
Home is a safe place for our entire family.
To me, home is a place that makes you happy at the end of the day.
I am Stephen Kelly.
I'm Casey Kelly, and we've been married for 13 years.
I served in the United States Army for 11 years.
We came to Franklin County to be close to family while Stephen was healing from a TBI.
It's definitely hard having to deal with PTSD and knowing that it's going to be here for the rest of my life.
As a caregiver, my job stopped, and we were falling on financial hard times. To lose your job and not know where you're going and know that you need to keep your children warm. So our biggest challenges were our fireplace and our single pane windows. Without Renovation Alliance, we would have had to go into massive debt to cover the cost of these two important things. They said that they were going to take that burden off our shoulders.
I'm Dorothy Allen, and this is my home. My mother lives here with me. One day I was at work. My mother was here, and she was walking, and she went to open up the front door. She fell, and she went from a cane to having to go to a wheelchair. So I retired, and I became my mother's caregiver. I had to make my son come over and help me take my mom in and out to the doctor and everything, and it was hard. It was very hard on us. So once Renovation Alliance got involved, they came in and they talked to me, and they were so helpful. They kept me involved in everything that was taking place and what they were going to do. And of course, they built me, I get emotional. They built me the most fabulous ramp that I would never ever have dreamed of for my mother. It has given my mother the stability and able to go outside and to just enjoy nature.
My name is Kimberly Woodruff. I have degenerative disc disease, which keeps me from doing a lot of physical activities. Being able to put wood in the wood stove has been a challenge for me. I had bone disability and unable to have the funds to afford the cost of the electric to heat and cool the home. I heard about Renovation Alliance through a friend of mine, actually. Someone came out here and told me some things that they believed they could help me with, which were windows and possible some heating and electric and things like that, which gave me a little hope.
They've accomplished fixing our wood stove and having brand new windows. They're going to keep the heat in instead of heating the rest of Virginia.
It's finally a place that we know that the kids and the animals and ourselves are going to be 100% safe, taken care of.
Renovation Alliance, they built me something beautiful. I just can't thank them enough. I really can't.
The volunteers that they have that come out are just the most amazing people that I've met. It's like we were never a burden.
It's difficult to find kindness in this world right now, and Renovation Alliance has been kind.
It just felt like when Renovation Alliance come along, took such a weight off my shoulders. As you see, it just kind of makes me smile talking about it. It brings the meaning of home back to life for me.
Thank you all for entertaining me and watching that video with us. I think that when we talk about home repair services and the work that we do in this community, to be able to see the impact the homeowners that we're serving is a good primer for this conversation. Renovation Alliance has been serving the Roanoke Valley since 1999. It started as a volunteer effort. It was 5 community members from the Housing Authority recognized that there was a serious lack of home repairs offerings in the community. And so they worked together to fill that. They brought together volunteers in April in 1999 to rebuild projects. It was 5 houses that first year, and it's grown since. In these past 25, now almost 26 years, we have rebuilt over 1,800 homes, all for our neighbors in need. The work that we do works to rebuild a safe and healthy home. We're doing all the services that are critical and necessary, including roof replacements and repairs, heating system replacements and repairs, plumbing and electrical. And I passed out our 2024 impact statement, so you can kind of see really what we're doing in the community. And to pull out just for the city of Roanoke, we served 58 households this past year that impacted 95 individuals. The average household income of the folks that are calling us and receiving services was just over $21,000. Meanwhile, Renovation Alliance, in partnership with the city and the community funds that we're pulling together, we were able to invest over $8,000 in each project. That was on average. We're also working really to keep people in their homes. So you all know that our housing stock here is aging. It's going to take a significant investment in order to rebuild the housing and preserve the existing affordable housing stock. And Renovation Alliance has been working with homeowners who have been in their homes for over 24 years in the city of Roanoke. That's about the average across the valley. We're working with folks who have been in their homes for over 25 years. So we're really proud to do this work, and we sincerely appreciate the city of Roanoke for supporting us through the funding. And what I did pass out here too was an opportunity for a community event. It's called Renovation Celebration. And so before I launch into what this event is and why I want the full community's support in this event, I would like to pass it off to Kathy Stockberger to talk more about our impact.
Thank you, Kendall, Mayor Cobb, Vice Mayor McGuire, members of council. I feel like I'm in home territory. I served for a few years on the Roanoke City School Board and treasure those memories and the support that we always got from City Council. We know we're in precarious economic times, particularly all of a sudden. And the reason I bring that up is there is a definite impact on nonprofits right now that I have not seen in almost 30 years of consulting and working with nonprofits. The increased operational costs relative to levying tariffs is particularly acute with construction. And that's what Renovation Alliance does. We have a lot of partners, but we still need materials to effect the changes in homes. There's reduced donor capacity. We're seeing that already, and part of that is based on the uncertainty surrounding us. It affects corporate sponsorships. Uncertainty, again, sort of infuses a sense of maybe we hold back a little bit this year in sponsoring an event or a nonprofit. And then government grants, and I probably don't need to highlight this, but the freezing of funds has affected our nonprofit as well as so many others in the area. So why is this so important relative to Renovation Alliance? Well, in being very transparent, I have worked with, served on lots and lots of nonprofits, and if someone were to ever ask me my favorite, it would be like trying to identify the favorite of my 3 children or 9 grandchildren. I'm not going to do it. They're all different, and they're all so necessary. But when I think about Renovation Alliance, there are several impacts to this community, the city of Roanoke, that I particularly wanted to highlight briefly. Number one, for every 25 cents we raise, we leverage $1 worth at least of achievements. We can show you our books. We do it. We improve individual lives, but we also improve, as Kendall said, the lives of this community. Aging housing stock often has aging occupants. It's important that there is a stability to those folks so that they can age in place if that's at all possible. Improving the safety and habitability of homes. If you wander the city, which I do and I love it, I've been here for 50 years, it is a beautiful city, but we have some aging neighborhoods, aging homes, just like every other city, and we are an urban environment. Keeping us habitable is really important for everybody. It prevents the abandonment of homes, and we see that, again, all over our community. Again, we're not unique in that, but we are unique in our ability to solve problems and be charitable in this community. And then, not least of these, is that when the homes are habitable, they're pleasant, they're safe, we foster a sense of place for our people. And I think at the end of the day, using the volunteers, the huge talents and capacity of Kendall and her team, which is pretty small, we're able to make a real difference in Roanoke. So thank you again for letting us come here today. We appreciate what you do for us and for this community.
Thank you.
All right, well, so now my appeal here. Renovation celebration. This is going to be in light of all of the uncertainty that we have with funding. We know that each year we receive over 300 applications from homeowners in need. Working at top speed, we're able to serve 90 to 100 homeowners. We would love to do more. We try very hard to keep our overhead as low as possible, so the majority of our funding is going out to the community. So 90 to 100 homes is about our maximum. Without federal funding and with a decrease in corporate sponsors and a decrease in individual donors, we will not be able to serve even those 90 to 100 homeowners. These are individuals in the winter time, their furnaces have gone out, they do not have working heat pumps, they have frozen pipes that are burst and no one knows what to do, and so they cut off the water until something can happen. Right now, they can call Renovation Alliance and we have emergency funds that we can go and serve those individuals. We also have many elderly homeowners and individuals with disabilities that need ramps. We are working as best as we possibly can to rebuild safe and healthy homes for every person that needs them. If we do see a decrease in funding, we will not be able to answer these phone calls. So our best attempt right now is to create a community awareness and fundraising event called Renovation Celebration. It's on Saturday, May 3rd, and we would love to have everyone involved. In the morning, we'll have a volunteer opportunity, so you get a little taste of how it is to volunteer with Renovation Alliance. We've got our incredible volunteers and construction team on site to teach people how we build ramps and modules to put them quickly out on sites. We're also going to be painting a home for a retired Roanoke City teacher. That'll be the final project at her home site. So very exciting there. We're followed by a lunch where Mayor Cobb has generously agreed to speak and kind of share more about the housing initiatives in the Roanoke Valley. We're going to also highlight partners in that portion, and then the afternoon opens up to a full community celebration. We have a lot of family-friendly activities, live music, food trucks. Our great neighbors, a few old goats, are going to be a part of this event as well, and so we are just asking everyone to please come. Let's talk about affordable housing. Let's talk about the very real ways that our community can rebuild and preserve the existing affordable housing and lead to better dignified lives within those homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Volleson, do you have any questions or follow-up?
Yeah, well, first I want to thank y'all for what you do. Renovation Alliance, being a realtor, I go through a lot of homes, and unfortunately, a lot of homes of folks that are older, and you can tell that there's stuff that needs to be done. And so it's great to have an organization like y'all that is coming and saying, hey, there's this old housing stock in Roanoke, and we need to just spruce it up for the next generation or for whoever's living in it, and that's amazing. And the work that you guys do is very impactful. I know that it can be the determinant between somebody living in that home and leaving, for sure.
Yeah.
I've seen some where, people lose their heat and they go to electric heat, but then the electric heat is like a $600 bill. It all kind of, once one thing goes down, it kind of spirals after that. So I appreciate what you guys are doing. How many people have you guys helped since 1999?
I don't have the exact number today, but it is, last year we surpassed 1,800. I think this year we are very close to 1,900, if not a little over. Yep.
And that's great.
That's great.
Think about how many folks that can now stay in their home, that can age in place, or live in the home that their grandmother left them. Those are things that we want to see here in Roanoke, and more home ownership, and you're allowing people that access. So I really appreciate all the work that y'all do. So I will not have any questions other than that one.
Am I allowed to add to that?
Go
I
ahead.
think that, you and I could talk a lot about housing affordability and the importance of it in our area. But one critical thing that we've been noting a lot lately is how this preserves not only the home and the dignity within the home, but wealth accumulation. The vast majority of wealth within families is kept within their home and the equity that they accrue in their homes. And so Renovation Alliance very much sees a role there in preserving that wealth accumulation for future generations.
I'm glad you said that, because I had actually written down here 20% poverty rate in our city. This is something that we really need.
Yeah.
And so you've hit it right on the head.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Powers?
I want to thank you too, because prior to being on council, before I retired with the city, I was the treasurer, and I know several people that your agency did help, and it was exactly what you said. They couldn't pay their taxes because they had repairs such as, no heat in the house or no coolant in the summertime, and I know you were able to help them, and thank you so much, because that gave them the ability to pay their taxes and not get behind. So I am interested in this. Where is it at and what time?
That's a great question, and thank you. It's at our office location, 538th Street Southwest. The serve portion of the event is the volunteer service. That begins at 9 a.m. And then 11:30, we break for a nice catered lunch and programming. And then at 1 o'clock, it opens up to the community celebration. It goes from 1 to 4. And we've applied to have the road blocked off, so it's kind of like a little block party feel.
And all your volunteer services, I'm sure, is listed on your website.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And a note on the location, Councilwoman Powers, it's right across from what used to be the Health Department building on 8th Street.
Oh, okay. I'll find you.
All right. Ms. Sanchez-Jones?
Hi, thank you for your presentation. My question is, how do people find out about your services if they don't have access to a computer?
Absolutely. With our applications, we do a survey of how did you hear about us, just so we can better know how to target our outreach in the community. Majority of it's word of mouth. A lot of faith leaders are passing off our information. The second to that is DSS and 211 referrals. So we partner with many incredible community partners, including Care Forward. If someone is interested in serving folks in need, we want them to know about Renovation Alliance, and so we do receive a lot of referrals from our partners. Least of that is Google searches for our website.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And sometimes we're a portal for folks who need other services. For example, we'll be doing renovation in the home and notice that there's an ambulatory issue or something of that sort. So it doesn't end with just the bricks and mortar, if you will. It really is a way to pick up on other needs that these families, or particularly veterans and elderly folks, may have where they don't know where to look, but we can, connect them.
Thank you.
When you receive a request, what's the process to follow up on that request, to do a consultation or to see if it's something that you might be able to work on?
Absolutely. Our program manager receives the applications and reviews them for initial eligibility. We're looking for things that are truly critical and necessary for home's health and safety, as well as the basic eligibility criteria, which is home ownership and income levels. So we use the HUD area median income for the top level of our income, but though we're seeing the majority of folks are well below that. So that after that, each month our team meets together to review all the applications, and we slide them in as they are eligible with the funding that we have available. So once an application's been reviewed, we put it off to our construction team to complete a home review. That's when they'll meet the homeowner on site and they'll talk about all the priorities. So we have a Healthy Homes checklist that we use, that we developed in partnership with the city to help identify all of the critical and necessary work that needs to be done on the home. So the homeowner might say, I really need a ramp. Our team will go in there and say, yes, you need a ramp and perhaps an accessible bathroom. And also, did you realize that your linoleum over here is a trip hazard because it's peeling up? And so we want to address that as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you.
All right, anything else? All right, thank you so much,
Thank
both
you.
of you, for being here today. We appreciate it. Next on our agenda this afternoon is reports of city officers and the city manager, and we have several items recommended for action. Item A is the acceptance and appropriation of the Project Outside Grant for Mill Mountain Trail Maps. We have one measure and ordinance, and I'll entertain a motion in second.
Move the ordinance. Second.
Madam Clerk, will you please read the title paragraph?
An ordinance authorizing the acceptance of the Project Outside Grant made to the city by the Roanoke Outside Foundation for Mill Mountain Trail Maps, authorizing the city manager or designee to execute any necessary documents necessary to accept such grant, and dispensing with the second reading of this ordinance by title.
Thank you. Ms. Turner, do you have anything to add to that?
I would. This grant will enhance the user experience on Mill Mountain by updating the current maps and adding them to informational kiosks in the area. The last Mill Mountain Trail Maps was completed in April of 2017. Since then, we have had several trails rerouted and several new trails built, including the 4 miles currently under construction by the Parks Foundation. A new map will help local trail users and visitors know about the new trails and neighborhood connections.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? All right. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Aye. Vice Mayor McGuire.
Aye.
Mr. Nash.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Powers.
Aye.
Mr. Hagan.
Aye.
Mayor Cobb.
Aye, and the ordinance passes. Item B is fiscal year '24 HUD Continuum of Care Grant Award related to Coordinated Assessment System. There's one measure and ordinance, and I'll entertain a motion in second.
I'll move the ordinance.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you please read the title paragraph?
An ordinance authorizing acceptance of the FY 2024 U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Continuum of Care Coordinated Assessment System Grant to the City of Roanoke in the amount of $52,505 upon certain terms and conditions, appropriating 2024-2025 grant funds, authorizing the city manager to execute any necessary documents necessary to accept such grant, and dispensing with the second reading of this ordinance by title.
Thank you. Ms. Turner, do you have anything to add?
I do. Mayor Cobb and City Council, this grant actually covers the salary of one of our full-time intake specialists with the city's central intake program. The position is responsible for screening households of at-risk homeless and individuals and families and referring them to resources throughout the community. So this is one of the ways that we partner with HUD in order to further some of our homeless activities.
Thank you. And I noticed Mr. Cruikshank with us today. I always like to put you on the spot if you're willing. I thought it might be helpful for the public and maybe even council to have a refresher on how central intake works.
Good afternoon, Mayor Cobb and council members. Yes, our central intake program is really our single access point for our homelessness prevention resources in the community. So we have this one full-time staff person that staffs our phone line, so folks can call that phone line, get screened for resources, and then reconnect them with available services in the community. We also have a state grant that covers another position that helps coordinate our other coordinated entry work to match folks that are literally homeless to rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing, some of our other interventions for folks that are homeless.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Mr. McGuire, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Quick question. On the phone line, what kind of volume of calls are we getting, and has that changed any over the last 12, 24, 36 months?
We haven't seen a significant increase over the last year or so. We get, I would estimate, around 50 or so calls a day, so we're busy pretty much throughout the year. We tend to be busier towards the end of the month. Folks that have public benefits get those at the beginning of the month, so typically we tend to see an uptick towards the middle or end of the month. But for the most part, our numbers have been pretty consistent. Our homeless numbers have increased over the last several years as the pandemic ended and some of those benefits expired, so we have seen an uptick in our homeless numbers. But on the prevention side, those requests have been fairly consistent.
Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions? We're going to keep Mr. Cruikshank up here because we've got a couple more matters too. All right, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Sanchez Jones. Vice Mayor McGuire.
Aye.
Mr. Nash.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Powers.
Aye.
Mr. Hagan.
Aye.
Mayor Cobb.
Aye, and the ordinance is adopted. Item C is the fiscal year 24 HUD Continuum of Care Grant Award for the Homeless Assistance Team. There's one measure and ordinance, and I'll entertain a motion and second.
Move the ordinance. Second.
Madam Clerk, will you please read the title paragraph?
An ordinance authorizing acceptance of the FY 2024 Continuum of Care Grant Award to the City of Roanoke on behalf of the Department of Social Services Homeless Assistance Team from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in the amount of $150,059 upon certain terms and conditions, appropriating 2024-2025 grant funds, authorizing the city manager to execute any necessary documents necessary to accept such grant, and dispensing with the second reading of this ordinance by title.
Thank you. And Ms. Turner, would you like to add to that?
I do have some comments. Here's another example. This grant is a primary funding source for the homeless assistance team street outreach efforts. This grant funds 3 full-time outreach workers and provides resources and other supportive services needed to assist unhoused individuals accessing service and housing. And I will turn it over to Mr. Cruikshank.
So this grant funds 3 of our 5 full-time outreach workers through the homeless assistance team, and then the city match helps us expand some of the supportive services that we offer. So we help with transports to help get folks their identification documents that they need for housing and employment. We purchase, if a client gets a new job and that employer requires items for the job, like steel-toed boots, if it's a factory job, or hard hats, those sorts of things, we're able to use these grant funds to pay for those items.
Great. Any follow-up questions? Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Vice Mayor McGuire. Mr. Nash. Mr. Volleson. Ms. Powers. Mr. Hagan. And Mayor Cobb.
Aye, and the ordinance is adopted. Thank you. Item D is the acceptance and appropriation of general funds for the Greater Roanoke and New River Valley Small Business Development Center. There is one ordinance, and I'll entertain a motion in second.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Madam Clerk, will you please read the title paragraph?
An ordinance authorizing the acceptance of general funds from the local host organizations to the City of Roanoke for the Greater Roanoke and New River Valley Small Business Development Center, appropriating 2024 through 2025 grant funds, authorizing the city manager or designee to execute any necessary documents necessary to accept such funds, and dispensing with the second reading of this ordinance by title.
Thank you. Ms. Turner?
This item is to set up a general fund account for Small Business Development Center that will accept revenue from sponsors and overages of cash match for 2025 and 2026.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Yes, Ms. Powers?
Can you tell me of this funds, or any of these funds, from what I've been seeing, are federal grant funds?
You can
Welcome, Ms. Forrester.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here.
It's great to be here. No, these do not include federal grant funds. You'll see some other topics that are coming up here in a moment that do, but this is solely for example, when we do programs, we seek sponsorships to fund those programs, and this account would hold those funds so that we could use them for our programming and workshops for small businesses.
So the ones that are federally funded, have you received any word that those could go away?
No. We are positive that we certainly have them through 2026. That's already been approved, but we do not have word that that's in jeopardy at all. We've also, for the year 2026, are receiving state funding as well, which is the first time in 25 years. So we see positive outlook for support for small businesses.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Vice Mayor McGuire. Mr. Nash. Mr. Volleson. Ms. Powers. Mr. Hagan. Mayor Cobb.
Aye, and the ordinance is adopted. Item E is the acceptance and appropriation of operation funds for the Greater Roanoke and New River Valley Small Business Development Center. And there is one measure and ordinance. I entertain a motion and second.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Madam Clerk, will you please read the title paragraph?
An ordinance authorizing the acceptance of operation funds from the United States Small Business Administration, George Mason University, and local host organizations to the City of Roanoke for the Greater Roanoke and New River Valley Small Business Development Center, appropriating 2024 through 2025 grant funds, authorizing the city manager or designee to execute any necessary documents necessary to accept such funds, and dispensing with the second reading of this ordinance by title.
Thank you. Ms. Turner, any additional? All right. Any questions, comments? All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Sanchez Jones. Vice Mayor McGuire. Mr. Nash. Mr. Volleson. Ms. Powers. Mr. Hagan. Mayor Cobb.
Aye, and the ordinance is adopted. Item F is the acceptance and appropriation of program funds for the Greater Roanoke and New River Valley Small Business Development Center. There is an ordinance, and I'll entertain a motion and second.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you please read the title paragraph?
An ordinance authorizing the acceptance of program funds from the local host organizations to the City of Roanoke for the Greater Roanoke and New River Valley Small Business Development Center, appropriating 2024 through 2025 grant funds, authorizing the city manager or designee to execute any necessary documents necessary to accept such funds, and dispensing with the second reading of this ordinance by title.
Thank you. Any discussion by council? All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Sanchez Jones? Vice Mayor McGuire?
Aye.
Mr. Nash?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Powers? Mr. Hagan?
Aye.
And Mayor Cobb.
Aye, and the ordinance is adopted. Thank you all for being here today. Next, we'll turn to comments by our city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Cobb. I have 4 comments. The Wasina Bridge Replacement Project has reached a key milestone with the removal of the final sections of the existing structure spanning the Roanoke River and Norfolk Southern Railway. This critical phase clears the way for construction of major substructure elements, including Pier 4 of the Wasina side, Pier 5 of the Old Southwest side, and the Old Southwest Bridge abutment. Removal of the old bridge not only marks visible progress, but also enables full construction access for the new load-bearing elements. Earlier this spring, the contractor completed the Wasina Bridge abutment and 2 of 5 Y-shaped piers anchored by deep foundations to ensure long-term stability. With demolition nearly completed, the next major phase will involve installing the first tub grinders, structural components that will support the new deck and begin to define the future bridge profile visible to the public. My second comment is Play Pride has the highest number of enrollments in program history with over 60 participants. Play Pride leagues are designed to offer a safe, fun community for LGBTQIA+ individuals and allies. The focus of Play Pride is not competition, but community building and the love of the game. Comment number 3, in response to community concerns regarding speeding near Sunrise and Round Hill Avenues on Oakland Boulevard Northwest, the Transportation Division has implemented a traffic calming demonstration project. This initiative incorporates horizontal deflection, new crosswalks, and stop for pedestrian signs to ensure safety and reduce vehicle speeds. The effectiveness of these improvements will be evaluated by comparing pre- and post-installation data to assess the project. And my last comment, the Youth Services Citizen Board will hold its annual Youth Summit. This year, they're partnering with Plowshare Peace Center and Points of Diversity. The 2025 Teen PJ Jam offers an exciting opportunity for teenagers passionate about promoting peace and justice, both locally and globally, to connect and collaborate. The event will feature interactive workshops, dinner, and performances by talented teen artists, and is scheduled for Saturday, May 3rd, 2025, from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the William Fleming High School. And those complete my comments for today.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have our public matters follow-up,
And I will turn it over to Ms. Hendrick.
and I believe council all received copies of this.
Excellent. Yes, you should have. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Cobb. Not Mr. McGuire. I will greet him when he comes back in. And the rest of council. I have a few updates for you. I'm actually going to skip over the first one because it was for Mr. McGuire's benefit, so we'll come back to that one. At the previous council meeting, there were several residents and representatives from Friends of Washington Park who were speaking in favor of preserving the historic caretaker's cottage. And since that meeting, a letter of support has been written on behalf of the Evans House, and there is a grant application underway to start to evaluate some of the renovations and repair to that structure. Vice Mayor McGuire also asked in the previous I believe it was the March 17th meeting, about an increase in pedestrian traffic along Riverland Road as folks were trying to access specifically the Star Trail parking lot and some of those businesses. And if you ever have a question that you need answered, direct it to Mr. Campbell because he will give you every possible detail. He is very thorough in his answers. So there's a design attached to the report that you have in front of you that shows a plan to connect the Star Trail to the Garden City Greenway with a concrete sidewalk. There is a way to reach all of those, but it's through sidewalks that are existing and you kind of have to loop backwards. So a lot of folks end up using the road because it's a little bit of a more direct route than the sidewalks. So the engineering division has developed a plan to create a sidewalk connection between the Greenway exit at 9th Street and the Star Trail parking lot. There are high construction costs because of steep slopes and multiple utility conflicts. So they are looking at some outside funding. There has, however, been funding approved through federal funds from the Regional Surface Transportation Program and the Highway Infrastructure Plan. So together, these will create a more direct route for pedestrians from the south side of Riverland Road to the Greenway exit at Garden City Boulevard. Mr. Campbell said the Department of Public Works is at 90% of the design drawings, and they should have the contract for that awarded by this summer. So that will create a much safer, more direct route for folks traveling along that way. Also, Vice Mayor McGuire asked about a locally housed map for EV charging stations. And this was in reference to Mr. Holmes' report about some of their infrastructure improvements. So the Virginia Department of Transportation does have a map of EV charging stations. But as kind of a side note to that, there's a team of city staff that are working on developing a community resources map. It'll integrate publicly available data to provide residents and stakeholders with access to a broad range of information. There will be interactive tools which will allow users to filter by topic, census tract, and other both demographic and geographic indicators. So the team is looking at the feasibility of incorporating some already existing data around EV charging stations into this particular map, and that way you'll be able to select that and find those stations specifically within our region. There are also multiple concerns on budget issues, primarily around the school funding formula and the proposed meals tax increase. There are multiple public hearings scheduled for this evening, but two of those are around the budget generally, and then the proposed real estate tax increase and proposed prepared food and beverage tax increase. So if there are residents still wishing to speak, they may sign up still through the clerk's office or in person tonight before those hearings take place. And this one feels very timely because we just heard from Mr. Cruikshank on a lot of the initiatives going on with the HAT team. But there are also residents that raised concerns about the city's unhoused residents, specifically noting an increase in the population and the challenges with mental health and substance use disorders. There are many departments and many outside organizations that are working on providing services to those experiencing homelessness, but I did want to highlight the STAR initiative that's been recently launched by the police department. STAR stands for Supporting Transition Assistance and Recovery. This initiative is led by Officers Dickerson and Underwood, and there's an outreach team that includes representatives from Blue Ridge Behavioral Healthcare, Brightview, Bradley Free Clinic's Hope Initiative, the Least of These Ministry, and the Homeless Assistance Team. So each Tuesday and Thursday, the team goes out to identified encampments and connects residents with services. And as a bit of a side note, I had the opportunity last week to go out with this team, and the work that they're doing is really, really encouraging. It's one person at a time, so it may not immediately feel like a massive change is taking place. But the thought occurred to me, Dr. White with the school system always talks about knowing students by name and by need. And this was what I saw specifically with Officers Underwood and Dickerson. All of the individuals we encountered, they already knew their names. They already knew some of the challenges and the needs that these folks had. Josh Gooseman with the HAT team was with us, and they were immediately able to say, you can come to the office on this day. These are the applications we can help you with. There was an outreach worker from Blue Ridge that was able to talk through some of the mental health services that they offer. So just a really encouraging initiative that is city-led, but they've intentionally pulled in others from service providing agencies, from nonprofits, all of that. And I included on your report, you'll also see that QR code. Channel 10 went out with them a couple weeks before and did a story. If you haven't had a chance to see it yet, it gives some really specific details about the work that they're doing, as well as some success stories with some individuals that they've helped. So that is all that I have for you guys today. So thank you.
Thank you. Continuing on in our agenda, we have no reports from the city attorney or the director of real estate valuation. At this time for committees, do any council members who serve as liaisons or appointees to any authorities, boards, or commissions have any updates that you would like to share? Anything at this time? All right. We have no unfinished business or any introduction or consideration of ordinances and resolutions. Item 11, motions and miscellaneous business. Any inquiries or comments by members of council today? All right, and we have no appointments to announce today. For other business, we do have a petition for appeal filed by Chris Kowalczyk. Thank you. Appealing a decision of the Architectural Review Board denying a request for approval to remove and replace a 100-year-old slate roof with architectural shingles and remove a non-functioning brick chimney. Mr. Kowalczyk is a representative and spokesperson. We do have a report from the Architectural Review Board recommending that City Council affirm its decision to deny the request, which they have stated is not consistent with H2 guidelines. And Drew Kepley, Mr. Kepley is here. He's the chair of the Architectural Review Board. So I'll call on, first of all, Mr. Kowalczyk for opening remarks. And thank you for being here today.
Thank you. And I appreciate being introduced as the representative. I'm the owner of the building. I'm a lawyer here in Roanoke. I've been practicing for 30 years. I bought that building in 2003. It had been previously occupied by a contractor. I think it was originally built in about 100 years ago as a single-family dwelling, like so many homes in Old Southwest. It's been repurposed. I renovated the entire downstairs when I bought the building, and it now needs sort of the second phase of the renovation, which primarily includes a roof. The slate roof is 100 years old. I've had one sort of major leak that Senvar Roofing came out and fixed, but as you can imagine, slate roofs don't last forever, and it's time for that roof to be replaced. So I called Senvar and I said, you know, how much to replace the roof, and they gave me an estimate of $24,699. Architectural shingles, obviously I wasn't going to replace it with a slate roof. The cost of that would be, I can't even imagine. I'm sure it's well over $100,000 to do that. So, of course, I have the fortune to, my building on 2nd Street abuts to the back through a common alley to Bill Mason's house, who is, of course, on the board, and I think Gwen Mason was on city council, and they're wonderful neighbors, but he said, no, make sure you go through the process. Don't just hire a roofer to go do it. So of course I didn't. I went through the process, and the Architectural Review Board said no. And I get why. I mean, they have a very specific mission and authority, and I don't know that they can go outside their guidelines, but you can. And my pitch to City Council is this. This building is, as I said, the first phase of the renovation was completely gutting, not only the first floor, but it had a dirt, I guess it used to be there was an opening, a square opening on the side of the building on the ground floor where they would, I guess it was a coal bin or something, but it had a dirt floor. And Ben Bono miraculously somehow created a concrete basement in that building, adding clean, usable space, and fixed up the foundation and all that sort of thing. And then he completely renovated the what would be the first floor into my office. There are 2 apartments upstairs. The insurance company won't really let me use those as commercial apartments until the roof is replaced, because they don't want, understandably, to have some catastrophic failure, and neither do I. So my pitch to the council is The rest of the outside of the building, on the second floor, I have cedar shake shingles all around the second floor. The first floor is a white stucco edifice. That is in very good shape. I redid the front of the building when I first bought it. But the roof and the second story needs to be redone. The cedar shakes I don't know how old they are. They might be original, but they really need to be removed and replaced with a more modern cedar shake, which isn't really cedar at all. It's essentially concrete with fiberglass mixed in it, but it looks just like cedar shake. All of those repairs and a lot of the trim work, let's call it the trim work, the dental work around the perimeter of the second floor and some of the gables that are on the roof over the years have just gotten water damaged, and all of that is going to cost probably around $80,000 to do. As a citizen of Roanoke, obviously, I pay my taxes. I don't cause any trouble to anybody. I'm happy to live in Roanoke. I'm happy to support the community, and so I do that. But this building needs to be redone, because if I have a catastrophic failure, then the building is going to be lost. The insurance company will pay me, and I can tell council I'm not going to rebuild it. Somebody else may want to rebuild it. I'll just sell the land to whoever wants to buy it. But I don't want to do that. I want to continue the renovations to make this to sort of take this into the next 100 years. It's got to have a new roof. It's got to have this. It needs to be wind and weather tight. The sun rises on the back side of my building and comes across one side, and so the weather side of this building really needs this work. So at the Architectural Review Board, they said, well, can you get an estimate for these shingles that essentially look like slate shingles? And apparently one is called Grand Manor and the other is called Carriage House. And essentially the Grand Manor shingles are going to be rectangular shingles, and the Carriage House, and I may have those words backwards, but the other one is the fish scales that you see a lot in Southwest. And so you have a couple of rows of the fish scale shingles, and then the rest of it is the rectangular one. And I said, sure, why not? Why not? That sounds like a great idea. Well, until I got the estimate, which is $53,000 for that from one company, from Senvar, which is a very good company, and then John T. Morgan, another reputable company since 1933, was $59,000. I don't know why there's such a difference, but apparently these shingles are in high demand, short supply, and whatever the reason is, it is what it is. So I have two different companies doing this. So the other thing is if you drive around 1018 2nd Street, and my building is essentially one house up from the corner of Albemarle and 2nd. On the corner of Albemarle and 2nd, there is and I'm sorry to whoever owns this building, but there's an ugly apartment building. It's a red brick structure that was built, I don't know when, but it's in bad shape. Directly across the street from me it looks like a house that would be like built in the 70s out in the suburbs. It's a doctor's office now. It's whatever was there before was just torn down and rebuilt. The house next to me was built the same time mine is. It's an Airbnb now, and the owner just spent a lot of money renovating the inside of that, but that just has a regular roof. Caddy corner to my backside on the corner of First and Albemarle at 1031 First Street is an old building that's a law office. That slate roof was taken off and replaced with architectural shingles. That whole street is just a hodgepodge of roofs, metal roofs, shingle roofs, really old slate roofs, all of which are in disrepair. So I think that as a practical matter, the beauty of my building is not going to change because the roof isn't slate and it's just dark gray shingles. And so I'm hoping the city will let me replace it and because the building needs to be preserved. It needs to be as I said, continued for the next whoever's going to own it after I do, and I plan on being there for a while. So I'm happy to entertain questions, but I don't know why there's such a difference in price, but for me to have to pay double the price on a roof strikes me as unnecessary, and I suppose, and it may not be for this particular forum, but I think I could probably make an argument that it amounts to a taking under the Fifth Amendment, an unlawful taking, because the takings clause basically, as I'm sure you all know, while this is not a condemnation where the city of Roanoke is taking my building for some legitimate city municipal purpose, the takings cases do involve restrictions on property owners and the ability of municipalities to sort of force property owners to spend money. And I hope we don't have to get to all that. I just want to put a new roof on my law office. And I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions at this point? And then we want to hear from Mr. Kepley, and I believe we have a couple of folks, one person signed up to speak to this matter too. Mr. Hagan.
How many units are you looking at putting into that property?
Well, there are two, the upstairs, so the building now has a functional basement.
Okay.
Which is storage, it's where the furnaces and whatnot are. The main, what you would call the first floor is a law office. And then the second floor has two, the previous owner divided that space into two one-bedroom apartments.
Okay.
And so, with the medical, I've already inquired at the medical school. I think that would be a great place for medical students to be able to live. That's really neither here nor there who lives there, but there are two is the answer to your question.
Okay. And you said you had one major leak. Did you happen to find any structural damage to the wood that would be supporting the roof?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Volleson?
You stated that it needs to be preserved. Does putting a new roof on a building, is that considered historical preservation if it doesn't match what that other roof was?
Well, I'm using preserved differently than you are. I'm using preserved as in maintaining its existence from wind and weather and forces of nature.
That's not
preserving the structure of the building.
Well, we are in an architectural review board area, an H2 district. Were you aware of that when you purchased the property?
No. But I know that when I purchased the property since then, as I said earlier, there's a hodgepodge. And again, I would argue that, to answer your question, that if you put a shingle roof on the building, just regular gray rectangular shingles, the exterior of the building, the architecture of the building, it's a very unique building, will be preserved. It's simply a different roof. It's just a different roof material. And I hadn't addressed the chimney issue. The chimney is no longer functioning, hasn't been functioning for a long time. And I believe it wasn't the architectural review board, but it was somebody who works in that office, essentially told the city that, or told the review board that the removal of the chimney doesn't really affect anything at all, other than, it doesn't need to be there. And obviously, if you can take a chimney out and re-roof it, and the roofing also doesn't just include the shingles, it includes, as you may know, I didn't know this until you get up there and start looking at it, but there's really no roof decking. It's essentially just the roof rafters and then the shingles right over. So it's not a modern roof, which is what I'm really worried about. So I understand what you're saying in terms of quote-unquote historical preservation, and I would say the roof, the building would still be a historically accurate. I'm not changing the.
I would say that that's
visual.
your opinion. I have a different opinion, and apparently the ARB had a different opinion as well. That roof is what I think gives that house some of its signature look, considering there are plenty of four-square homes of that age in Old Southwest,
Right.
but not all of them have a roof like that. And also, I think I'll just stop right there and I'll let Mr. Kepley come on forward.
I have a question.
Mr. Nash?
What was the quote for the shingles or the roofing materials they want you to use would be between $150,000, $3,000?
One was $59,900, and the other one, and of course, this was back in December of 2024, so with supply chain and whatever else is going on in the world, this likely is not, but it was almost $54,000, whereas the original, just to put regular architectural shingles, was about not quite, just under $25,000, so more than double the price.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Powers?
So the part that is leaking, can you just not repair it back with slate?
It has been repaired, and it was an area about the size of this podium, and that was repaired with slate.
And so it's just leaking again?
No. I had a leak, which prompted me to sort of look at this whole thing, because then it occurred to me that I could have a roof failure, which I don't want a roof failure. And when we have a 100-year-old roof, that's a concern. I think it's a legitimate concern that I have.
So currently you don't have a leak?
Correct.
Okay, Ms. Sanchez-Jones?
The type of roof that you're planning to put on, how long do you think it's going to last?
40 years.
And then you have a roof that already has lasted over 100 years.
And the question?
No, why would you want to change the roof if what you have now has served you for...
Well, because I'm living on borrowed time. I don't want to wait for the roof to fail, because if the roof fails, you could literally, depending on what type of failure it is, if it's the remnants of a hurricane that comes through, or we get a blizzard or something, and the roof fails, then the building could be destroyed, and then there's no building. And I don't want to just wait and hope that it lasts another 100 years.
Okay, hold on. All right, Mr. Nash and then Mr. Volleson.
And so what's the reason why your insurance company won't allow you to use these currently as two apartments?
Well, I assume it's because they want to make sure, they want to know if I'd had any water issues, and of course I'm going to be honest with them and tell them that. And they do an inventory, if you will, of the building. What type of electrical do you have? When was that updated? What type of, plumbing and heating? What's the roof structure? What's going on with the roof? So I assume it's the same reason I'm thinking, is that they don't want to take an insurance risk on a roof that's 100 years old, that's had a major leak issue.
If I might piggyback on that, a lot of times, insurance companies will ask, how old is the roof? If you don't know how old the roof is, then they won't give you insurance. And that's typical, and that happens in any neighborhood, not just the historic district, but the insurance company isn't aware of historic requirements and things like that. I had a house in Old Southwest. I remember when I was going through my insurance, getting my insurance, that was a big issue, and I know that I've seen that with other clients of, can I get homeowners insurance through this company? There are, sometimes there are other companies that will be willing to insure it. It's an insurance company decision. My question for you, sir, is did you get a quote for what the slate roof would be to replace?
I did not. Once I learned that it was going to be 54 or 59,000, depending on the quote, for the look-alike slate, the shingles, I stopped there. But I have informally had people tell me it would be over $100,000 because you still have to. You can't just replace the slate. The underlying structure, the building code would not permit the slate just to be taken off and put back on over the trellis-like structure or the frame-like structure.
Again, it's great that somebody has told you, that's what it could be, but I would like to know what a professional would like to say about that, because I have doubts that it would be as high as you're saying.
Well, but it certainly would be.
My point is there's no factual basis to it unless you got an estimate.
Yes, you are correct, but I think you would agree with me that a slate roof would cost at least as much as the look-alike slates, which is $59,000. It's certainly going to be more than that, which again is now going almost triple what it would put a roof that's on the building right next door to me and on the one at 1031 First Street, both of that which had slate roofs.
Those are not up for a
I understand
COA.
that. I understand that's your consideration, but it's certainly my consideration. I'm there every day.
And sir, how much do you, since you're going to be renting out the property, how much do you stand to make per month off of this property?
I have no idea. I don't know what the rent would be for that.
So
one of the apartments is
Okay, let's stay focused on the matter at hand.
Yep.
Mr. Hagan?
And quite frankly, that wouldn't be any of council's business anyway.
Thank you. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, when were you made aware that you lived in an H2 district overlay?
I can't tell you when. I mean, at some point, my discussions with Mr. Mason, my neighbor.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, one more question, then I'm going to ask Mr. Kepley to come up, and we'll hear from the other person signed up. Mr. McGuire?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to clarify, I understand it would be nice to replace a slate roof with an in-kind slate roof. I am inclined to agree with you that it would be extremely expensive, but to be clear, you have been given permission to put asphalt shingles on the roof. There's a request that it be a specific kind. So that has been, you have been given permission to do that. We're just talking about
More than double the price, yes.
an
You are
aesthetic
correct.
difference
You are
in
correct.
the asphalt shingle.
Well, aesthetic and price.
Yes. Gotcha. I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
50% more, not just a small amount.
Yeah.
But yes, you are correct, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Kepley, give you an opportunity to share any information from the ARB and perspective, and then we'll hear from the person signed up to speak about this. Thank you for being here today.
Good afternoon. Good to be with you, Mayor Cobb, members of council. Thank you for having me. And with our agent, Catherine Gray's help, we prepared a little statement that I'll read into the record. In 2020, City Council, after a multiple-year public process, adopted City Plan 2040 as the city's comprehensive plan. Within the livable built environment section, preserving culturally, historically, and architecturally significant buildings and sites remains a key element in how we grow our community through preservation and contextual sensitive design. The city established the Architectural Review Board to protect and enhance the character of historic architectural or cultural properties located in historic districts. We do this by administering historic district regulations through reviews of new construction, alterations, and demolition of structures located within local historic districts for compatibility and appropriateness with the existing character of the districts. In reviewing a certificate of appropriateness request for new construction or exterior modifications to an existing structure in the H2 overlay district, we are required to evaluate whether the design is compatible with the character of the district with respect to the building location and scale, the roof forms, windows and doors, siding, trim, and porches, and whether the existing architectural features with respect to proportion and texture are retained. We have adopted architectural design guidelines as a guide in determining whether, we've adopted design guidelines as a guide in determining whether proposals are in compliance and must consider the applicable guidelines in our decision to issue or deny a certificate of appropriateness. The H2 architectural design guidelines were most recently updated last year to improve clarity and respond to new technologies and materials, including the section on roofing that expanded options for roofing. As we all know, roofs are an important defining characteristic of a building style, and the roof forms, features, and materials are important elements of this. Most roof replacements within our local historic districts are processed in-kind, repair, replace approvals by the agent of the Architectural Review Board, as most applicants choose to replace the existing roofing with materials of the same design so that the architectural defining features of the structure are maintained. For example, within the past 2 months, 6 applications for roofing replacement were approved administratively as they were in compliance with the H2 design guidelines. The Architectural Review Board reviews roof replacements where the property owner is requesting a change to the materials or form of the roof. The H2 design guidelines, which were updated last year, do allow for replacement of slate shingles with substitute materials that retain the visual appearance of the original roof and are physically and chemically compatible. Particularly, substitute materials should match the original in scale, pattern, texture, and color. Within the past year, there have been 3 requests to replace historic slate roofing with asphalt roofing. asphalt shingle roofing. 2 certificate of appropriateness requests did propose replacing the historic distinctively patterned slate roofs with asphalt shingle roofing in scale, pattern, and texture, and matching color replicating the existing roofs, and were approved by the board. The certificate of appropriateness request that is the subject of the appeal today did not propose to replace the historically distinctive pattern slate roof with materials in scale, pattern, texture, and color replicating the existing slate roof, and was therefore denied unanimously by the board. And I'll just also point out that, as we understand it, there was a little bit of a difference in the timing of the proposals that were gotten for the, or that were provided to the board for the roofing. So there's a little discrepancy there, as we understand it. But the other thing that I'll point out is that I think one of the cost elements of the roofing difference is the warranty. I think the architectural shingle that was proposed by the applicant is a 30 to 40 year architectural shingle, whereas the slate look shingle is more of a 50-year to a lifetime shingle, which means that it could last as much as twice the length of time as the originally proposed roofing. And I'll just point out, just from an architectural standpoint, I think one of the prevalent feelings with the board is it's just a really beautiful structure, and the roof is just really a major contributing factor to that. You know, the scale of the building and the proportions from the symmetrical porch to the symmetrical windows to the roof form to the mullions to the slate form. I think it all contributes to the beauty of the form. And so consequently, the board unanimously voted against the application. So,
Thank you, Mr. Kepley. Thank you. Any follow-up questions for Mr. Kepley? Mr. Hagan.
So if the main difference is between the warranty of these 2 shingle types, I don't understand why that's the purview of the Architectural Review Board. Because if it's something where we're looking at the historic, aesthetics of this, the lifetime warranty or the warranty of a shingle shouldn't come into play, correct?
Right. Actually, there's an appearance difference.
Okay.
So that the difference that, and you can, I'm sorry you don't have a picture, but in your package, I think on page A190, 191, there's a picture of the original house. And so the slate shingles, as we can all kind of picture in our mind, are typically around, I would guess, maybe 8 or 9 inches square. The exposed element of in there, kind of a running bond pattern. And this roof is distinctive in it has kind of a fish scale pattern, maybe 3 rows of that every, say, 8 or 10 rows. And whereas so those slates, if you will, are individually distinctive, whereas the architectural shingle that's proposed is more of a random pattern that have forms that are maybe not quite as large as my hand. You know, they're 2 to 3 inches staggered in kind of a more random pattern, if you will. So what we're really protecting is the formal appearance of the roof. The shingles that we're asking to be installed match the form and dimension of the existing shingle. That's where we're getting into an issue. So it's the texture.
And is there any indication as to why these 2 separate companies, is that something that the Architectural Review Board suggested as to this specific company versus another one?
There are several shingles that match, that are very similar in appearance to a slate shingle. And those we have recommended to several other applicants, and they have installed those, and they very similarly replicate the look of a slate shingle. And so that's the one those are the ones we're recommending. And there's several different manufacturers, so it's not like it's one manufacturer and one type, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Other questions for Mr. Kepley? All right. I believe we have one person signed up to speak to this.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Kepley.
Thank you.
Catherine Horn.
Welcome.
Thank you. Happy Monday to the board. I am on the current board member of Old Southwest, and I'm charged with our historic preservation in the neighborhood. So I'm here today on behalf of the neighborhood via the board of Old Southwest, requesting that City Council uphold the ARB's decision and guidance in this matter. I wanted to add, I don't know if any of you have been to the Albemarle Coffee Shop, but when I come out, and you have a gorgeous roof. I've been up the street and walking around, and it is a very distinctive, architecturally beautiful roof. I'm sure that all of you are aware that these decisions that you've been charged with, they're at a moment in time, and these decisions have the ability to eradicate permanently the beauty of our historic neighborhood, and that will be forever lost for generational enjoyment. Unless there's evidence that the ARB has misapplied the guideline, an override of materials, patterned roofs, and even the H2 guidelines it signals that it shouldn't be considered in future ARB decisions. So if the waiver is granted, it is my opinion that the precedence is established for any waiver requested due to expense in the future. So as with all laws, rules, and guidelines, they need to be applied evenly and to all. And you know more than anyone, there are processes to amend going forward. But in the absence of any change, we request that the ARB decision stand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, may I respond to some of this?
Sure. We'll give you another opportunity to respond. Sure.
First of all, I've not been told by anybody about any warranties, and that was not a piece of evidence that was adduced at the Architectural Review Board hearing, so I don't know where that's coming from. I can tell you this, I've talked to both roofers, and Certainteed is the only company that makes this set, if you will. Again, one is called Grand Manor, and that's the name of the shingle, and the other is called Carriage House. And I don't know what Grand Manor, one of them is a rectangular shingle, and the other is the fish scale. I don't know which is which, but it doesn't matter. One manufacturer, not a bunch of manufacturers. There are a bunch of roofing companies that will install it. Second of all, if you, and I wasn't sure quite how this is going to work, and maybe I should ask for you all to table this so I can come back another day at your convenience, not mine. And I'm happy to come anytime. And I know you're in the middle of much bigger questions than my roof, but if you walk up just one block from First Street, up Second Street, up the hill to Mountain Avenue, you're going to see, I think there's 4 or 5 structures on the right-hand side and 3 or 4 or 5 on the left-hand side, and they all have different roofs. And so if I heard whoever said that in 2020 is when this was all revised and so forth, I've owned the building at 2003, so I suppose there's an argument that I've been grandfathered in because lots of people put regular shingles on their buildings. As I said, the catty corner for me on the back alley is a huge Victorian-type, beautiful structure. It was owned by the late, great Richard Lee Lawrence, who was my mentor. Architectural shingles. The building next to me, same age, same shingle roof a long time ago. Regular old, just brown shingles, not even architectural shingles. And so it's not a question of whether or not this is a laudable goal. It certainly is. It's a question of consistency. And if you have all these different roofs all over the place, and I'm going to be forced to spend double the amount of money, when I would say that the structure of the building is going to look exactly the same, with the exception of the roof, well, then I guess that's City's Council's prerogative. I'm not going to do it. So if I have a roof failure, you want to talk about preservation, and the building gets destroyed, then they're going to total it, and it's going to get torn down, and then God knows what you're going to have there. You won't have that. So, you all do what you will, but I'm asking just to put a roof on my building. I'm not turning it into a McDonald's. I'm not turning it into a gas station. It's going to be essentially the same building, and no one's going to go by and say, "Wow, that's a really ugly building." All of a sudden, they're not. There may be certain people. I appreciate the homeowner, the Old Southwest person who just spoke, and I appreciate her compliments on the building, but by and large, if we're talking about bigger picture stuff here, it would be better for the city, for this building for me to finish the renovations, make it wind and weather tight, and add 2 apartments. In your earlier discussions, and I've never been to a city council meeting. It's my first one. And so I was very intrigued by, we have a housing issue. Well, there's 2 more units that you can have that you're not going to be able to have. So again, I appreciate your time, and I'm happy to answer any other questions. And if you want me to go out and bring back a bunch of pictures, I think you're pretty all familiar with Old Southwest, but it is a complete hodgepodge of roofs. So,
Thank you, Mr. Quasley.
thank you, Mayor and council
All right.
members.
Now is an opportunity for us to continue our discussion. If anyone has any, Mr. Volleson?
Based upon the evidence, testimony, and documents presented to this council at today's hearing, I move that the decision of the City of Roanoke Architectural Review Board on January 16, 2025 be affirmed, and that no certificate of appropriateness be issued to allow the replacement of the slate roof of the main building with architectural asphalt shingles at 1018 2nd Street Southeast. Is that southeast or southwest?
Southwest.
Sorry, 1018 2nd Street Southwest, as set forth in the application for a certificate of appropriateness on the ground that the proposed installation and location would not retain the visual appearance of the original roof in scale, pattern, or texture, and is not consistent with the H2 architectural design guidelines.
Okay, we have a motion before us. To have a second?
Second.
Okay. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on this motion?
Ms. Sanchez Jones?
No.
Vice Mayor McGuire?
Can you clarify for me what an aye vote is in favor of the?
It's to affirm the ARB's decision to deny the request.
Yeah, you may want to go back.
Yeah, let's go back. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
No.
Mr. Nash?
No.
To affirm or not affirm?
Are you affirming the ARB or not affirming?
I'm siding with the property owners.
Then it would be a no.
So no.
Okay.
Okay, so let me just make sure everybody's clear. Sometimes these motions are worded in strange
I'm like, it's
ways.
the first one.
We may need to access our translation services. So the motion that was made was to affirm the Architectural Review Board decision to deny the request for a certificate of appropriateness. Okay, so this is affirming the denial based on the ARB's action. If you agree with the ARB, vote yes. If you don't agree with the ARB, vote no. Maybe that makes it a little clearer. Okay.
All right, Mr. Volleson?
Yes.
Ms. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Hagan?
No.
Mayor Cobb?
Yes. And what is the final total?
4 to affirm and 3 to deny.
Okay. Is that sufficient action?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. This is not an ordinance, therefore we don't, just a simple majority.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for your attention to this matter. All right, I don't believe we have any other business before us for this afternoon session, so we will recess into closed session and reconvene here at 7:00 p.m. this evening. Thank you.
Bells tolled at St. Peter's Basilica as crowds flooded to the square to pay tribute to the Pope. Francis is being remembered for his humility and his unwavering commitment to the poor and marginalized. The Vatican has released the official cause of the Pope's death. NPR's Jason DeRose has the details.
The Vatican news agency says the cause of Pope Francis' death has been identified as a stroke, followed by a coma and irreversible cardiocirculatory collapse. The director of the Vatican's health office issued the official certification. According to the medical report, the Pope had a prior history of acute respiratory failure caused by double pneumonia, high blood pressure, and type 2 diabetes. Earlier this year, Francis was hospitalized for more than a month due to pneumonia. As late as Sunday, he attended Easter Mass and met with world leaders and the faithful at the Vatican. Pope Francis was 88 years old. Jason DeRose, NPR News.